We see people in need every day, out on the street, on the train, in the news. There are thousands of people across Australia living with various forms of severe hardship. Everything from homelessness to domestic violence to mental illness and disability. We see them and we know that their lives must be incredibly difficult, but we have no real understanding of what they go through. The St Vincent de Paul Society of Australia, through home visits and a range of services and programs, sees 1.8 million of these people in need every year. Vinnie's members hear their stories and their amazing survival strategies. The truth is, these people know things that no one should have to know just in order to survive. Today, we're going to introduce you to 3 of them.
I was very dazed. I was in a daze. I wasn't scared. I became scared later on living on the street. But the first month or so, I was, because I'd had a breakdown, I was just in a daze. And I was sleeping down at Rush Cutters Bay in a grandstand down there. I was really ashamed when I thought I'd let down my whole family, and I thought I'd let down my daughter, and I didn't let anybody know where I was. For the first year on the street, I wasn't getting money from anything, anywhere, after I'd run out of money. And I started to wash car windows. Technique is to be empathetic with people in cars and, first of all, you have to smile to put people at their ease, and you have to think about what it's like to be sitting in a car with some lunatic with a sponge melt walking down the road who doesn't look, like a normal person. It's a lot of it psychology and being empathetic with what people are thinking and feeling in cars. Just like being a salesman, you've got to just make as many calls as you can to get as many sales as you can. You get a lot of knockbacks, but you get some people who say yes. I've done it for an hour and made 5 cents, or 2 hours and made $1, And on one day I made $117 in an hour. So I was using that to eat food and things like that. So I got afraid when I started to mix more with homeless people, actually, because it can get pretty violent. First of all, the first reaction or instinct is self-preservation. So you do what you can to survive. You find a friend, maybe he's weak or as weak as you are, but he's a friend, and it helps to talk. So you've got someone to talk to, And you're finding your way around. So you talk to each other and you discuss things and you keep your head down. And then you make allies if you can. It's all very tribal and hierarchical, and I think to a sociologist it would be pretty, pretty obvious what people have to do to survive, in any group. You find a group, you sleep in a group, although, people might fight in that group, but if you're alone, you're very vulnerable. You can get, murdered like that and nobody would know, nobody would see, nobody would protect you. You'd just be dead. I mean, there was a guy, I think last year, who got smashed with a brick up near the cathedral up there. There's been stabbings down here, out near the toilet out there. Huge fights. Overdoses. A friend of mine passed away in front of the police station. He was a really nice man, one of the first people I met on the street. He was a professor from Italy, and really intelligent and very funny. We used to go out and sit out the front some nights and smoke a cigarette and talk. It was a bit annoying, but he was a really nice guy, you know, and I woke up one morning and I found him and he was dead. For me it was pretty sad because he was alone. He didn't have any family in Australia. I went to try and tell some people that he knew that he died, but I couldn't find anybody. Afraid of being lonely, you know? I'm really dreadfully afraid of being lonely, and I spent years and years and years alone. I'm not... I was alone. I was a unit, you know? I'm not, you know, it was a hard thing. It was not, when I say alone, I was alone.
I just, how do I put it? He worked into me slowly. One minute he's so nice, and then it goes back to the same thing. And you think it's going to get better, and then it goes back to the same thing. And it's just like hitting a wall. So you think it's all going to get better, and you hit the wall. And you can believe 1,000 times over he's not going to do it again. But leopards don't change their spots, do they? So I think that my mum never hit me. My dad never hit me. I don't get it, like, you know what I mean? No one ever bashed me, so for someone to take control of you so good and easy to have that and have pain inflicted, and it did hurt. It wasn't like it was something that it was just like a little whack on the side. And the first time it happened, I was in Spain, and it happened with him, and that's where I remember I was cleaning the place out where we were moving into. His friend walked in, and I was mopping the floors, but it was too wet. The floor was too wet, and he was bringing his friends in, although I was trying to clean the place. And all I remember, I was more outspoken back then, and I remember saying something like, "Oh, for God's sake, or for f***'s sake," you know, as we all do, anyone would say it. And that's when the first time he hit me. Because he was a cleaner when I first met him. And that's what he was showing me to do. I had to do it properly. For example, his socks. If I had washed everything and folded, cleaned and done everything, even if he had 20 socks in the drawer, he'd always want one pair of socks that I don't know where the hell they were. And if he didn't have those socks, he would lose the plot for a pair of socks. I used to run around like at the end of it. I used to make sure everything was spotless, like just double checking everything, double checking. Oh, I used to have to vacuum, instead of vacuuming the floors, because we didn't have a vacuum, I used to have to get down and dust. Use a dustpan and dust the floor. Now I think about it, it seems really bizarre, but actually it works. But I'd get down and do that, because if he found anything on the carpet, I remember keeping food in the cupboard like chips or chocolates, and I wasn't allowed to eat them. He'd pick them out of the cupboard and eat them in front of me and go, "That's not what you're supposed to be eating." It all had to be healthy because he was training, yes. It had to have no fat, no this, no that. Yeah, he was psycho about that too. If it had, every now and then he'd accept it, and then he'd want to eat it, but I wasn't allowed to. I had to stay skinny. I remember, like, sometimes I like twisties or, you know, just anything, chocolate bars. Not allowed to have them, not allowed to have them in the house, because then he'd want them. I remember hiding stuff in the cupboard where it'd be like all different, so say it's your sauces and stuff, but I'd shove it right at the back, and he found it still, like anywhere like that. Even if I put it underneath something or inside, I know I used to do stuff like that. That's how pathetic I got. Like, seriously, even like in the laundry, I'd put stuff, like just every now and then, like I just want to have a chocolate. And I used to go up to the bakeries and eat all the creamy cakes and just enjoy everything. And when I got home, I'd be like, I didn't eat anything, no. So it doesn't matter if anyone could see it around me, my whole family could see it. They saw the bruises when he first was with me, and my mum would always go, "What's that?" In the end, you lie to yourself. You tell yourself you got hit and you think you've done it. There was another time where he bashed the hell out of me in the back of the car, and Even someone else notified the police, like, because they saw the blood in the back of the car with the kid. So I got an injection, and it wasn't even meant to have an injection because I told them I tripped over and hit a metal bar. They believed me, or they sort of, it was a bit funny, but I was just hysterical or whatever, and I was like, oh, I don't know what happened. And I believed it so much in the end that anytime something happened, I really believed I did it. And you go like, you just, in the end, you're emotionally distraughted, trust me, and you don't know what's right or wrong, you don't know which way you're going. It's like that Goffman theory, have you ever heard of that? Where it's a theory where it's the front stage and backstage. You put on a front stage when you're around other people, but when you're at home, it's like the backstage, so you don't really know, no one knows you what's happening. But you put this front on when you're around other people, and that's what I swear I was doing. It was 5 years like that, yeah, like just...
My life's pretty mad.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have lots of ups and downs. Things change from week to week depending on my son and his moods and things like that. So your whole life really revolves around his life more than our life. The first kind of 12 years of his life, we hibernated. We couldn't go on a holiday. My kids and I, we all loved him and loved each other, but we didn't really have relationships. Once they hit puberty, the behaviours get a lot worse, the violence gets a lot worse. He'll just attack you for no reason. You know, he'll slam his head into brick walls. He'll actually search out a brick wall rather than a soft wall, because your head goes through the soft walls, they don't go through brick walls. So you'll have a good week and then you can have 5 bad weeks. You can have a good 6 months and you can have a really bad 6 months as well. So you just got to keep telling yourself it's when he does hit you and bash you up or bite you, or when you're at the end of your tether, that it is the disability, it's not him doing it. You know, I've got to lock him in his room overnight when he goes to bed, because if I didn't wake up, he'd be gone in the morning. He might climb over the fence, he might climb out a window, he'll follow the white line of the road, or he'll go up the path, but when he gets to the main intersection, he doesn't acknowledge a car, so he'll just walk straight out across the intersection. And I know it sounds horrible, but I'll get permanent marker and I write my mobile phone number on one arm and his name on the other. People think, oh, what is she doing? He's got his phone number. And I'm like, but it's just like, it's our saviour. They know, you know, I'm driving around going, and then the mobile rings and it's just thinking, please, please be someone found him. Yeah, and they're like, oh, we found his number on your arm, we could see it. And if it's big enough, I don't have to hold him to, yeah, and that's saved us a couple of times. These kids go through phases where they might not sleep. You know, they might sleep 1 hour in 24 for 3-4 weeks. It could go into months, and you're driving around in the car because if you don't take him out and drive around, the whole house is awake and then everyone else suffers. You know, you just constantly be driving, putting more petrol in the car, hoping that you've got enough money, you know, to keep going, you know, and trying to keep enough money aside so you could drive all weekend, yeah. I think the furthest I've driven in one day was 500 kilometres, just to stop him crying. And when he's not home, I'll go, you know, I'll try to go for a coffee on my own, go for a drive, and I'll sit down Cronulla, watch the waves, just do things like that, just peace, yeah, trying to get your mind off things for a while. A lot of the times you're just sitting there thinking. It's amazing how long you can sit there and stare into space for hours on end, just thinking. Yeah, and I've had days where I've been, the depression would get that bad, you're just driving through the national park thinking, am I going to come home or not? You know, yeah, you get to that point, yeah. Do I want to just pull off the road a bit further than I should tonight, or And you kind of stop and think, no, you've got to have faith that everything's going to get better and go and try to get help.